Everyone thinks that they need like tons of followers and a massive audience and, all this like fame and publicity and all these other things, but you don't. You just need a really clear message, as you mentioned, and it really dials in back to the positioning. So I feel like a lot of it nowadays is all about the transformation. So when I look at people's bios online, a lot of times it's like a diary, right? Where it's just like, oh, lifestyle creator, dog mom, whatever, right? Um, and it doesn't really lend to like, who are you and what do you do, right? So what I've been encouraging a lot of our talent that we work with now is to actually um, create a through line where we're actually showing like who you help and like the transformation that we're taking people through. So like for a keynote speaker that wants to, instead of just speaking on leadership, maybe they are a change agent that can help reduce turnover for organizations by 20% each year.
You're listening to Creatives Prevail, unraveling the stories of creative professionals.
Hello everyone and welcome to Creatives Prevail, where we explore the stories, challenges, and decisions behind how creative careers are built. I'm your host, Mike Zimmerlich, and my next guest is Monique Sar, founder of marketing agency Vitesse. After a successful career in finance, she moved into entrepreneurship and has since worked with professional athletes, executives, and content creators. We discuss what brands are looking for right now and why most creators should be charging more for their partnerships. Let's get into it. Hey Monique, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. And I really do appreciate you being on the show. I'm really excited to talk to you because it's always fun to talk to fellow companion, if you will, on the agency front. So love to talk about that stuff. But it's interesting because I was looking into your background and I could tell that you have such a strong passion for storytelling. And I just want to start off by asking you the question of what makes a good story? Like, what makes a good story to you?
Yeah, no, this is such a great question. I mean, and I don't want to like just sound like everybody else out there, right? So I always take like such a pragmatic approach to stories because once you figure out the formula, then all you got to do is just add all the magic throughout it, right? So the formula really, like you always want to make sure you have a really strong hook to like get people's attention. And then you want to give them context. So it's like what actually happened. And then you kind of reach like a climax, right? So like what is the actual problem or the tipping point to keep people on the edge of their seats? And then you follow it up with like the solution or like what was the result that actually happened. And then what I feel like a lot of people don't actually do is like add the action at the very end. So like what was the action that you took? So when I look at storytelling, I look at the formula first, right? And then as you have the formula, now you have like the entire like arc and journey that you have to take people on. And then you can add like all the nuances and the magic, like I mentioned, like all the fun anecdotes and little things like that. I feel like a lot of people that I work with, they start backwards, right? They start with all the pizzazz and the magic and all this other stuff, and then they end up talking in circles. So it ends up like doing you a
Yep.
disservice, you know. So I always like, with the people that I work with, I will always want to make sure if you have the formula first, you'll know where to go, and then it'll prevent you from talking in circles and rambling, right? Because, sometimes like, I mean, I'm guilty of it myself, right? Like I can tell a good story, I can talk, and sometimes I just can't land the plane.
I'm equally guilty of that as well. And it's challenging, right? Because again, that formula is so important because again, it's how people are going to be, paying attention to what you're doing. And do you find that the formula changes a little bit based upon the person, or is there like a set formula that you go, hey, this is a formula that works for pretty much everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. So at first I did think that, it was different for different individuals, but then when I started to dissect and analyze like a lot of like the keynote speakers that I work with and a lot of the content creators that I work with, it was always the same thing. As long as there was like some sort of hook to bring in the attention, some sort of problem or climax, and then the actual solution of what actually happened, that right there can create the loop. And then for people's brains, right, it can help close the loop.
Interesting. Did you find like, when it comes to like the hooks, right? Talk a little bit more about that, right? Because I know for myself, I've been trying to do that more lately where when I try to do promos, even for this podcast, I try to give like something that's going to get people interested, like something that's going to be like, ooh, like I want to like watch this clip for a little bit longer to see what this person's talking about, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm so glad that you asked this question because what we're finding now, because this has changed, and I feel like a lot of stuff has changed with the advent of AI. And I mean, we're in 2026. I'm still like mind blown that we live in this stage, right? Um, I always take a look at, when we're like analyzing the hooks and, preparing hooks. I used to think that it had to be about the actual content that was going to be delivered. But now when we like reverse engineer viral videos and content that we see out online, or even just like keeping, keynotes really engaging, it's actually has to do more with like a pattern interrupt. So bringing a little neuroscience into this, we want to basically catch people where, you know, it's a pattern interrupt where they're really used to scrolling or they're really used to like, something that's like very routine for them. So if you're able to like do something or share something that's a total pattern interrupt, not even related to the content, I think that's what's really going to help set it apart, at least for this year too.
I agree, but it's interesting because if other content creators are thinking that same way and they're all trying to do pattern interrupts, are people going to get accustomed to that where, oh yeah, I know what they're trying to do here? And because I know for myself, it's like I know when I see someone go like when they come into the screen go like, hey, how are you, like kind of like try to like, I almost like be like nope, because you're trying to get my attention, I don't even know what this is for, and I kind of skip over it. So do you find that you like, I guess it's like, where's that balance, if you will, right? Where you're trying to get their attention, but yeah, but also have to have some sort of meaning to the attention they're trying to get.
Oh, this is so good because like, and as you know too, like people are just becoming so much more savvy, right? And so it's like it's going to be like harder to like trip people up in that regard. I always think that it does happen in waves and you can't like stay set in your own ways. And so this is why like everyone that we work with has to also be a student of the game to really take on like new ideas. But also coming back to the old ones. So like, how like bell bottoms are coming back, right? Like all the retro stuff is coming back. And sometimes like having that balance of like the new and the old is actually really, really refreshing because I don't know what generation you're in, but like when I look at like the Gen Zs versus the millennials, right? Like I go into the Party City and I see like my year is now like a decade, like one of the decade costumes. It's
Wow.
kind of crazy, kind of wild. But when I look at that, it's like it's also kind of like fresh and exciting to like bring that back. So when you're like kind of balancing the two, right? Like even I have some talent that's like considering working more with like AI and just trying some different things there. Yes, it's trendy, but then people will, slowly start to get tired of it. But when you bring it back to just even the old like yapping videos, right? That's doing very well right now.
Interesting. Interesting. And you know what? It's so fascinating because when you this is not where you started at all. You started as a financial advisor. So I'm just kind of curious, how did you like, how did you get started there? And I'm just kind of curious, we're obviously talking about where you are today, but that's where you started though, as a financial advisor.
Yeah, totally. So, a little bit about my start. I come from an immigrant family, and what do immigrant families tell you to do, right? They tell you to study really hard so you can get a really good job, so you can work really hard and make a lot of money. And so that was the path. And so I'm just like, right. But then you get to college and you're just like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? And I have like 4 years to figure this out.
Hmm.
So I obviously I chose finance because I'm like, well, finance people seem to be making a lot of money there. Like, let's go down that path. And so when I got in, I did enjoy it a lot. And I got to the point where I became like one of the top 10 female financial advisors in the Western region for my firm, in terms of like numbers of clients and book of business. And so that was definitely like a really exciting achievement that I had. And everyone always jokes though, because like everyone calls me Captain Compliant because I do everything by the book, right? Because I was really just like, if this is the recipe, like I will just follow it. And then I got to a point where like I wasn't sure if this is still what I wanted to do. Oh my gosh, Michael, we were having cake. We were celebrating my colleague's 50th anniversary at the firm, and all of a sudden I think I was having a panic attack, but I had to do that whole movie moment where you like excuse yourself, you go to the bathroom, you like look in the mirror, just like, is this my future? Like, is this what I'm gonna be doing forever? Because I realized he started um, right after university, just like I was. And so it was like, oh man, that is literally like my path. And so after like, 6 months of like poor sleep and really just questioning like what is the meaning of my life, right? I finally made the leap to move. I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I was like down to just like try different things. But honestly, it was like the scariest thing because even my mentors in finance, my mom, she was just like, "Are you sure? Because you've worked really hard to get to where you are now, and you're gonna essentially have to start all over if you decide to like change your mind." But I've always been that person that like, if I'm so type A and I'm like such a planner where I'm like, okay, if I see the path, I'm just gonna go all in. And this was that moment where I had to realize like I don't have it all planned out right now. Like I have no idea what that looks like, but I do know this it's not here. Right. So I knew that I had to give myself the freedom to like go and explore, um, without having the plan. It was definitely a very scary time.
I mean, kudos for you for making that realization, right? Because that is not an easy thing to come to even acknowledge, let alone do something about. So that requires a lot of strength and courage to realize, okay, this is not what I want to do forever, but I don't know necessarily what to do next. So what was next then? Like, what did you end up deciding that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I was getting really drawn into this world of like entrepreneurship and starting your own thing. And in finance, granted, I was kind of like I was like a W-9 employee, but then I also like had an opportunity to like also build my own business, but I had like the comforts of like a corporation, like health insurance, right? Like all those great things, before you like go off on your own. Um, but yes, I was really drawn to this world of entrepreneurship, and I was just really drawn to just like working with individuals on just like building whatever they were doing. And because I didn't know what I wanted to do for myself yet. And so landed in the world of drumsticks. So I worked with a lot of musicians. And that was a really cool experience just because like drummers are the ones that are in the back of the room, right? They're not like the guitarist or the singer that's getting all the attention. And they weren't getting enough love, And so when I started working in that world, that was really cool because like they literally are the ones that are like the timekeepers of the whole song. Like if the drummer fails, like the entire band fails.
Land fails. Oh
And
yeah.
and yeah, totally. And so when I was thinking about that, I was just like, this is kind of like what I like really like lean into, and that kind of like leans into like lends into what I do today because I'm like totally a behind the scenes kind of gal. You could not pay me to get in front of like 100 people to like talk, right? Like that is not me. I'd much rather be behind the scenes. Like I still want to be a part of the vision, but not being the one actually delivering, right? Like if I can help get you there, that's what came next. And so after I left that, I went into the world of marketing and consulting, and I was working with a lot of tech companies at the time, just getting off the ground. And some of the founders I was working with, they were like, "Yeah, Monique, we understand what you're teaching us and what you're consulting on us, but we don't want to do the work." So that's kind of how my marketing agency was formed. So I was like, "All right, well, I guess." Our team can do that for you. And since then, it's just like really evolved. So now we're like, primarily like heavily focused in the automotive space. And so that's been a lot of fun. It's a very full circle moment for me because I've always been into cars. Like grew up with all boys and Hot Wheels, right? Didn't get my first Barbie until I was like 8. But that's been a lot of fun. And then throughout that, it was the pandemic actually. So this was when things started like shutting down. I was living in the UK at the time. The restrictions were like way different than how they were in the States, like to the point where I was like, right, I gotta go back home. And so during that whole period, I don't know if you're familiar with that app called Clubhouse that came out.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super popular in 2020, right? And
Yeah.
when it first came out, I spent a an atrocious amount of time on that app, like, when it first came out. I think I spent, like, 100 hours that first week it came out. It was
Wow.
insane. I fell asleep on the app, but I think it was during a time when, like, everyone was craving that human connection more than anything, and I really enjoyed just
Absolutely.
talking to people, so that was, like, my little claim to fame. Yahoo Finance did an article on me being one of the top business influencers on that app, and then through that
Wow.
yeah, one of my old, mentors in finance saw that, and he's like, "Hey, Monique, I love what you're doing, like, do you wanna join my team?" I'm like, "Sure," like, like, I don't know what's going on, but this is, again, me supporting visions, right? Like, I wanna be that second in command, right? And so, he was one who helped open up the doors for me to working with talent, so I started working with, like, professional athletes, Olympic gold medalists, UFC fighters, executives that have achieved, like, the top 1% of what they do, um, and through that, it was just kind of a wild circuit, like, I had no idea you can get paid, like, how much to deliver a one-hour keynote, like, it just, like, blew my mind. And then that kind of evolved into what I do now, like, with Revision Media, we work with a lot of, creators, helping them get paid more, get their brand deals, because I do feel like it's the same thing, like, speaking engagements and brand deals, it's like the product is you, right? And so like
That's correct.
it all kind of aligned. And honestly, like where I am now, like I would have laughed, if you said this is where I was gonna be, because I never saw this as the path, but I truly feel like I am where I'm meant to be. Like honestly, like work and play just they totally feel like the same thing.
That's the ultimate goal, right? Is to have, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, right? It's different if you have a job, but if you are, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you should feel excited about what you're doing. And at least for me, I feel the same way. Not everyone has a different drive to themselves, but for me, I want to have fun with what I'm doing. Right. So I wanted to build something that I believe is providing value to others, while at the same token, I feel passionate about it, and ideally also having fun doing it at the same time. So, I totally understand that we talked about before that, I have a agency now called Omelette Prevail, and same concept is basically working with brands and helping them with doing creative collaborations and things like that. But I also was in the music industry for 18 years prior to that. So, I'm very well versed in working with music artists and creators in general. And, but that was so passionate. I felt so excited to be helping behind the scenes on all these people doing, I like to say this. I like to say that I like to be creative with people that are more creative than I am.
Oh, I love how
Do
you
you?
said that. It's because like, I feel like everybody has their own gift, and it's been
Yes.
it's been so cool like working with creatives and stuff as well because I feel like I'm a very black and white person. Like again, they called me Captain Compliant. That was like my nickname. I don't know. But it's cool like working with creators just because like they're like, oh gosh, a friend of mine put it in a way that I thought was just so very eloquent, right? He said that creators can see things before it's actually like out in the world, and that's their gift. Like they can actually create those things. So, so cool.
So you mentioned about being Captain Compliant. Did you take that same mentality when you started your own company? Because it's different when you have, the sandbox to play in when you have a job, right? This is the rules and this is what you have to do. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's not like the sandbox is much, much bigger.
Oh yeah, I'm so happy that you mentioned this because like honestly, like it was a very big shock to my system, right? And that's when I realized like, you become an entrepreneur so you can have all this free time and like, time, location, freedom, like you can do anything whenever, wherever you want to, right? But then it became this thing where I'm just like, wait, like I actually work way more now than I did back when I was in finance. And, you know, um, I feel like the internet also really glamorizes entrepreneurship and makes it like, oh, you can become an overnight success, right? But people don't see that it takes like 10 years to become like an overnight success, quote unquote. And then you end up like creating a prison for yourself, right? But um, at the end of the day, when I realized is like I actually needed to use those principles that I had in corporate where I had like, the sandbox, if you will, to create that container. Because if I didn't, I would be up super late. Like, and there was like a period where like my health took a turn where I was not sleeping a lot. And because I was just so like really drawn in. But then there'd be periods where I'm just like, okay, my body is like totally crashing because it finally caught up, right? Like, and I think that's very important that a lot of entrepreneurs don't like prioritize. Like you have to like, make sure you're all good and you're all set before you can continue to keep building. And I know like we're all guilty of it because we love what we do. But that was definitely a shock to my system for sure.
Do you find yourself to be more of an introvert or more of an extrovert?
Ooh, what do you think actually? I'm curious.
Well, I would say introvert just because of the fact that you mentioned a number of times you like to be behind the scenes. And that's usually an introvert, like myself, right? It took me forever to do a podcast like this, believe me. I usually like to be behind the scenes, but I had to, by force, I'm like, all right, if I need to get things out there or do these different, and I actually ended up loving the podcast, but it definitely was outside my comfort zone. Like that's just. Let me ask you this question because usually this also tells you too. If you had the option on a Saturday night to be at home, relaxing and chilling out, or work it, or getting some work done, or going out to a and socializing, going to a party or a club, what's your natural response?
Oh my gosh, you already know. Like I am like there in my Netflix and chilling. Like
Yep.
you get like we're the same in that because like it's very interesting because like I much prefer like that time to just like recharge and to build something. And don't get me wrong, like I do love an occasional, like, a night out or something like that, but it's so rare. And I have to like, I really have to plan for it. Like I have to have it on the calendar, plus like a couple days to like recover and like recharge. Because it takes a lot out of you. So
Yeah, it really does. And there's some people, and I kudos to them that they can just like, they can
yeah,
go hard every day, like socializing and doing all these things and so forth. But me, like, all right, got my social energy, in for this week. I'm good. I'm just gonna, play hermit for the next couple of days and go for here.
exactly. Right. It's a lot of peopling.
One of the things I want to ask, and I think this just applies to pretty much everyone, is messaging. And when I mention about messaging, because you talk about, you worked with content creators, public speakers, obviously your own endeavors as well, is conveying, you know, who's this for and what's this for, right? So how do you approach that, right? Because that, it sounds so simple, but it's really really hard to narrow it down, especially when you're in an agency. I'll put it that way, as as an agency too, right? Because an agency by default does lots of things. So then, but then how do you start narrowing it down, or how at least make it clear so people know what it is that you actually are doing, and how does it actually help me?
Yeah, 100%. So I have this signature method or signature framework, if you will, that I take everybody, every client through. So founders, speakers, talent, businesses, right? And I call it like the 5 R's. So number one, it starts with your reputation. Next is your reach, and then it's relevance, and then it's the relationships. Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. I'm blanking on the last one.
It's okay. I got to put you on the spot a little bit there.
Totally. So, um, oh my goodness. Okay, so reach, relevance, reputation, the relationships. I'm totally blanking on this. Okay, maybe we can cut that part out.
We'll say four for now.
Okay, sounds good. But essentially, like it starts with that the reputation piece. So we're looking at the reputation piece, it's all about positioning, and I feel like that's what will set people apart. Everyone thinks that they need like tons of followers and a massive audience, and all this like fame and publicity and all these other things, but you don't. You just need a really clear message, as you mentioned, and it really dials in back to the positioning. So I feel like a lot of it nowadays is all about the transformation. So when I look at people's bios online, a lot of times it's like a diary, right? Where it's just like, oh, lifestyle creator, dog mom, whatever, right? Um, and it doesn't really lend to like, who are you and what do you do, right? So what I've been encouraging a lot of our talent that we work with now is to actually um, create a through line where we're actually showing like who you help and like the transformation that we're taking people through. So like for a keynote speaker that wants to, instead of just speaking on leadership, maybe they are a change agent that can help reduce turnover for organizations by 20% each year, right? It's a very like tactical thing. And this is what's going to make you known. It's what's going to make you relevant, like coming back to that relevance R. And so it's going to make you be the go-to person that bookers and planners and organizations will come to versus you having to just like spray and play and just like continue to pitch yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. It's still really hard, right? Because like if you ask, even a content creator on the spot, like what it is you do and so forth, it's just it's really. Do you have them internally try to go through that practice or process, or do you help, or do you give them more, like give them guidance as well? I guess is the way of saying, like, it's like, this is what you really are. It's really tough, right? Because one side, like, some people just have a hard time explaining it themselves and need that outside perspective, and sometimes it's no, work it out. Like, work it out yourself, go through the process of trying to figure these things out.
Yeah, so I take everyone through that 5 hours audit. So it's pretty much like it's a very, very long questionnaire. But I'm a really big fan of also using AI to help you with that as well. So
Me too.
when I take people through this audit, we have like some AI prompts that go along with it to really like ask you the questions that are come from a super judgment-free zone, right? Because AI has no judgment and it has like, it's just going to tell you it like it is. As you like explain some of these things as well, like what you're missing, what the scenarios are. And I think that's like been the biggest thing for like my clients and that big like aha moment for them because I've seen like many talent that aren't as big as like the celebrity ones still command the same type of dollars that the celebrities are, just by being so crystal clear and locked in on that positioning.
Wow. That's really interesting because that's the other thing too, right? Is like some content creators they go, you know, again, I don't know how much to charge for this. This is just something that I like to do, and looking to make money from it. And right before, actually, in fact, we started this interview, you mentioned that everyone should be charging more, which is crazy. Which I thought was really interesting because I feel like that brands have been reassessing a little bit about where their budgets are going towards. But you mentioned that everyone should be charging more for the work that they're doing.
Yeah, so that is totally my hot take. I do because I see it from the brand side and from the creator side as well, and I feel like we can create that harmony, but because brands, they just have to see that ROI, right? Like we just have to make it make financial sense for them, whatever that those KPIs are. We work together to establish what those metrics are. And we always have like, a fallback plan if things don't work out. So we always have like some sort of ads campaign like built out just to make sure that we're hitting the mark because at the end of the day, like we're establishing those KPIs together. On the creator side, maybe on the talent side, I always have to remind them like you have to think before the world of Instagram and all this like influencer marketing stuff, right? A lot of these big brands like Nike, for example, right? They would have to like hire a venue and the models and hair, makeup, wardrobe, like photographers, videographers, like an entire crew, right? It could be like a 50, 100-person crew just for like a 10, 15-minute commercial, right? And that's not even like the back end. On the back end, you might need like the sound design people and like the editors and everything as well. So I always have to remind our talent that, right? Like you are oftentimes like a one-person show and you're doing like all the things, right? And but it's not always just about like you posting like something that looks like an advert, right? You have to really like be bought into the brand as well. So with a lot of like the campaigns that we're organizing, they're oftentimes like, 6 months to 1 year collaborations because we really have to weave it in to the brand DNA of the organization as well. So it doesn't look like a cash grab or anything like that. Because again, consumers now are so savvy, right? Like if it's getting just pushed by a creator, it doesn't make a lot of sense for them, right? But if they can see it like in their daily life, in their daily routines, it's something that they're really like working on and ingrained in. That's the stuff that really can create these long-term partnerships that, can be really beneficial on both sides. So that is my hot take. So I do think that creators should be charging a bit more because, it's not only just like your time for the production itself, but it's like a brand ambassadorship, right? Like if there are events, like you better make yourself known and actually go to these events as well. Like getting that in-person FaceTime is like super important, which brings it back to like the relationships tier. Like so much of like these long-term deals like happen off screen. Like it all happens like, a face to face. Like, we do fly out a lot to like meet our clients still. And I know it's a bit old school in this world that we have like Zoom and everything. But again, coming back to the old retro stuff, right? I think this is the stuff that helps set you apart.
Plus, it's nice to travel. So that's the nice part too, is it gives you a good excuse to travel. But I'm a very big believer. Anytime, obviously, most of these interviews are always virtual, but I always love the opportunity when I can meet people in person. Like I'm a very big believer in coffee meets, like very big believer in those, or even doing like small mixers or things like that too. Anytime those come up, I'm always there because it's just something about being in person that is very different than just doing it like, a Zoom call or anything like that. I mean, it's nice to have that convenience, but I always take the opportunity to meet people in person.
100%. It's so refreshing to hear you say that because like I hear like some of these like online gurus saying like coffee meetings and stuff are now like empty-handed meetings. And I'm like, yeah, they are. They can be sometimes if that's your mentality, right? But I think like, coming back to like being human first, having that proper handshake and having a lovely chat, I think bringing it back to that is really important. And it's refreshing to hear you say that.
Appreciate, yeah, absolutely. I no, appreciate you saying that. It's interesting because it's also the same thing about time, right? And the time that it takes to like to do those coffee meets and like and also to go to travel to these locations and do all these things. I personally feel like it's worth it. So because for me, for example, it's like the people that mention about like the 10-minute calls or things like that. Well, for me, it's Well, if a call takes 10 minutes, that's probably could be sent in a text message or an email or a quick phone call, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a video call. The whole point of a video call is to get to know the person a little bit better about what their needs are or what's going on, or it may be doing maybe a little bit of brainstorming or troubleshooting or something along those lines. It's going to take a little bit more effort than just an email or a text message. And coffee meets is the next step from that. It's like a coffee meet is like you really are getting to know the person, or it's because it's just as important to have the main talk as it is to have the small talk of getting to know each other, or talk about our day, or just the weather, or traveling, or traffic, whatever, right? But that's what, as you talked about before, that's what makes it human, right? And that's what actually starts developing those genuine connections with people.
100%. Yeah. As I bring it back to like my 5 R's, I remember my last R. My last R
Oh
was like
yes.
results, which is the most important one. Like,
So,
but obviously,
sorry,
like,
what's the fifth
is
one
that
again? I'm sorry.
results. So
Results.
like things that you
Duh.
said.
Yeah, of course.
I'm like, I know it's like the most important one, but but when we bring it back to like these relationships and the results as well, like I feel like a lot of people forget that because I think especially in this world where everything just feels like a transaction, people are missing the mark there. And I always get often asked by my talent like why they're not getting rebooked for things. It's like, well, like we could have handled that relationship part a little bit better or really leaned into the results a bit more. Like, if they had an in-person activation that totally like, not part of the campaign, but if you just make the effort to just go and get some FaceTime with these individuals, it really makes a difference.
Exactly, because again, everyone wants to be treated like humans. So that's a good follow up to this. Is that what is it that you ultimately expect out of the creators that you work with, the influencers? Like, does it change based upon each brand, or do you have like a set, like here's are the base expectations? If we're going to represent you, these are the base expectations that we have for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know for a lot of talent agents, it's very different, and agencies, it's very different. But for us specifically, we want to make sure that everyone is at least posting at minimum 4 times per week. And so, and honestly, like the ones that are doing very, very well, they're posting 4 times per day, which I know, like,
I was gonna
for
say like 4 times a week seems really minimal. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Totally. So the ones that are like really killing it are the ones that are doing like the 4 times per day. And I know some people hear that and they're like, oh my gosh, that's so much. Like, how am I going to do that? Right. But for the minimum per week, like no breaks, I think that's the biggest thing because sometimes like it's really difficult for us to have to explain like gaps like in the consistency and that I know that one is definitely like a very easy one but it's a lot harder said than done especially like as you start that journey and pushing out content like you got to keep it going right and then the second thing is honestly just being a decent individual and I can't believe I have to say this but reply, in a timely manner and, make sure that, when you come to these meetings with the brands, like you're not just representing yourself, but you're also representing us as well, right? So it's also our
That's right.
reputation. I once had a talent that like didn't turn on their video for the whole call and it's just like, oh my goodness, little things like that, right? Where, yeah, I saw you raise your eyebrows and it's just like, it sounds like common sense, but honestly, like it's not, and I can't believe I have to say it, but it's very important that you're painting yourself in the best light. And last but not least, it comes back to the storytelling, right? And so I think storytelling is the one most incredible skill that you can learn, and you can carry it on with you wherever you go. Like, since I've worked with so many tech companies, like I still have a lot of friends, and we chat about this, right? And some of them were telling me it's like, yeah, like, some of the neighboring companies and stuff like they're also offering like 7-figure salaries just for like storytelling roles and just bringing it back to being human first, right? We live in this world of AI, which I think is amazing, but as you can see, like there's a lot of like AI nonsense and AI slop that's out there, right? So we definitely want to stand out in a way that will really set you apart from all of that and just break through the noise. Storytelling is going to do that, and I do believe that storytelling is like what brings it back to like being human and the nuances and the magic that I alluded to earlier.
There are particular you mentioned about the whole process about when you're doing the onboarding with your clients, with influencers and content creators. So, are there is there a particular type of content creator that you normally look for right now? Is it like you mentioned about size is obviously like a part of the equation, but is there anything else that you look for when you vetting through that process of who you want to work with?
Yeah, so a big part of that is like if our content creators have like understood their formats. So what I mean by that is, maybe they're really good at yapping videos, or maybe they're really good at just like the time lapse type things, or because everyone has their formats, right? And when we like are really drawn to the creators that like have really like locked in on their format. Like they know that if they make this format, it's gonna go viral, right? And it's not like a spray and play like that. And that just tells us that they've hit a point in their content creator careers where like it's a formula and it's a system, right? I'm a very data-driven individual. Again, Captain Compliant, coming from finance, right? We look at all this stuff and we track all of that stuff because it makes it so much easier for us to go and pitch to the brand. Like, hey, here are the results, one of those R's that, from a previous collaboration that one of our talent has done. And this is the format. This is how we can see it like working with your brand. And it's so much easier when you can just bring this to the table because then the brand can just be like, yes or no, right? Versus them having to like also come up with a campaign. And yes, campaign design is something that we help with as well. But if we're able to just bring something where there's like a proof of concept that these creators have already done, I think it just makes the process so much easier. So the formats can literally be a lot of different things, and it doesn't always have to be one, right? It can be like multiple formats. But if you go to the creator's channel, you'll be able to see like, oh, these are the formats because it's something that they're known for. It's something people will come back to their channel to watch.
You have that same approach when it comes to public speakers?
Yeah, so with speakers, it's a little bit different because with speakers, I think with speakers, it's way more important to like really lock in on those key transformations. So like what are the main attendee takeaways, right? And if we can like distill that into like 3 to 4 bullet points, I think that's going to be really great versus just coming off and saying like I'm a motivational speaker. My story is very inspiring, right? Like those two things aren't going to land because at the end of the day, the people that we're talking to, they still have to present this to their board or to other individuals like, higher up the food chain that are making these decisions. So with the speakers, essentially what we'll have them do is to make sure that they really lock in on their sizzle reel. So that's basically anywhere between like 3 to 5 minutes of just like, the mic drop moments, stage presence. If they've been on TV, it can be a compilation of all of the above. I've had some speakers do some really creative ones where they show all the stage presence and they're doing a voiceover of themselves. And then it like clips into like, the mic drop moments from when they were on stage. That's because like a lot of bookers and planners want to see like what are they doing with their hands? Like, can they work the entire stage, right? Or are they just staying in one spot? Like, all that stuff matters. And then the second thing we always want them to have is that rate sheet or that one sheet where it doesn't always have to have the rates on it, but it does have to have like the keynote topic, the transformation, the results, and then the attendee takeaways.
Interesting. And yeah, for those who are not familiar with the one sheet, I mean, I think not just public speakers, but pretty much if you are a content creator, everyone should have some sort of one sheet. So, is there like a base that you usually try to look for on a one sheet? Like what are like the core elements of a one sheet?
Yeah, so I always want to make sure that you actually have to fit everything on this one sheet. I've
Right. It's
gotten
called one sheet for a reason. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. Honestly, like I've gotten one sheets, quote unquote, that have been like 3 to 5 pages long, and I'm
Oh,
like, at this point, it's becoming a media kit.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Totally. But this one sheet should definitely have your bio. It should have the results and the proof, like of some of the past companies and organizations that you've worked with, and some of those metrics, right? If you can actually highlight and show some of those metrics, it is very, very important though that your metrics are true and not falsified, right? So like, do not round up anything when you're in this space, right? Because a lot of these brands and organizations do also have their own internal tools so if you're fibbing about a number or if you're rounding up, maybe it was an honest mistake, they will find that and they will confront you about that. And then last but not least, I would also put like, the details of the formats that your content is. So that way, you can explain like, you don't just do short form, you also do like YouTube placements and things like that as well. So you don't have to put the fees on there, but you have to actually put like, it's like a sign that you're open for business essentially.
I love the fact that you mentioned about being honest with numbers, and that's always something that's been very interesting to me for the longest time. I'm a very honest person too. Like I try to be as honest as possible, but also you're trying to you're pitching yourself, right? You're pitching your client, and you of course want to put them in the best light as possible because you're pitching them. So your thoughts on, like, so for example, let's say somebody has, I don't know, I'm just gonna make up a number here, let's say 10,005 followers, right? Do you say 10,005 followers, or do you say over 10,000 followers? Because technically both are true.
That's very true. That's very true. So, I have two answers to this. So, if it was on
Okay.
a dynamic website, right, and that ticker is actively changing, then sure, right? But I would actually lean into just going with the 10,000 because we know, like, some of these platforms, they like scrape the spam followers and stuff, right? So it's like you just
Mm-hmm.
never want to be caught in a lie.
Right.
Especially like, if you can't explain it as well, it's still not a good first impression. So I think that that's definitely huge there. Um, when we are looking at this though, I work with talent that even has 8,000 followers, right? But her in particular, I don't know if I can share her name, but she does like sustainable Gen Z fashion, right? And so it's a very niche category, but because it's so niche, she's been able to lock in so many deals because it's so niche, right? She knows who she is, the brands like know who she is, and she's just like she's owning her category. So even though she's not like, the mega influencer with like 800K or a million, right? Um, I always like, encourage her to just own her space. And at the end of the day, it's not about the followers, it's about the content that's delivered because we can also get really creative on the type of content, right? Like, with ads and things like that, dark posting or whitelisting, we can just make the content and they can essentially be like UGC creators where it now is work for hire. So she doesn't even need to post it to her profile. And you can still command the same kind of rates. But I think this actually comes back to a mindset thing where you have to check your ego at the door, right? And so, and you also have to check your insecurity at the door as well. Like it's okay that you don't have a ton of followers. And it's okay if you have a ton and you haven't booked a lot of deals, right? Because I work with creators on that side as well.
It's also about, I appreciate you mentioned about this, not about the followers. I would go even further saying it's about the quality of the followers, right? So perfect example is that if you have, let's say, a mega influencer with 1 million followers, but a very small percentage of that is your target demographic, right? They actually, then the likelihood of it actually hitting that target demographic is going to be relatively small. Where in comparison, if you have somebody who has 8,000 followers, but the majority of them, or if not all of them, are exactly who your target demographic is, you may actually yield better results by going through, essentially a smaller influencer that is highly targeted to your market.
Oh, 100%. And I think this just comes back to too with like the brand, right? Like what are the actual KPIs we want to measure? Like is this a brand awareness campaign or is it a sales campaign, right? Like do we need conversions? Do we need that those metrics to actually like make dollars back?
Exactly. Which brings me to the next thing about brands. What are brands looking for these days? Because when I talk to to brands, like that answer changes almost on a daily basis.
Oh, totally. And I see it, right? Because like it's a funny year with like AI and like just so many things changing in the world, right? And like I have honestly seen a lot of brands like scale back a little bit as far as just like, being as adventurous and trying different things. So this is why, like I was mentioning, having showing like a case study of something that's already performed will just help that decision making process a bit more. I have noticed it like if we are pitching like new campaigns that have never been done before, those aren't as landing as popular as they were, excuse me. They weren't landing as popular as they were a couple of years ago. And so I
Interesting.
think that when we can actually show them like, hey, this is a campaign that they did for XYZ fashion brand, we can totally replicate this with yours. With AI now, we can also like do the renders of what all of this looks like. And then when you're making the visuals for them, you just want to make the decision-making process like as easy as possible for the brand. And so with the brands, like I agree, like what they want is changing daily. But if we can just show them like, here's something you might want, I think that's really helpful for that lift.
I appreciate what you said about the fact of making it as easy as possible, and I think that just applies to everybody. And so whether you are an entrepreneur yourself or you are a content creator, whatever the case is, you want to make the other person's job as easy as humanly possible, including for yourself, right? For, if a content creator is contacting you for, you ideally you want to have, again, the one sheet all prepped, ready to go, being honest with your numbers, right? Having all the things already set and ready to go. It just shows that you care and you've done your research, you've done your homework.
Exactly, 100%. The research part is, I'm glad that you mentioned it too, because I feel like too often creators are not thinking about that. And I honestly feel like the research is respect, right? Respect for the brand. It means like you've done your due diligence, you've actually put in the time. It's not just a generic email that you're sending to like 1,000 other brands out there. So it's a nice personal touch.
Exactly. That was the mentality a long time ago, where it was you throw out the widest net possible, and it's just, to be honest, a numbers game, right? Is that eventually you'll get a hit, and I think that still relatively works. But I'm much more big believer in very targeted, right? Is again, if you are reaching out to a brand, well, why are you reaching out to a brand? I talk to content creators, music artists all the time about this. Is that whenever they want to do brand deals, is okay, great. Your first list should be, who are you already using? Like, who are the products that you already like, that you already purchase? Because brands love working with existing customers.
Exactly.
Because if they don't, then it's like, well, why do you want to work with us? Do you actually like what we do? Do you actually like our products or or our services? Why? Like, why is the case? Or are you just looking for a free, or just looking for money, or some free product at the end of the day, right? So, which I have seen that happen too. So, brands are onto that. So they want to see, well, why us specifically? Why are you reaching out to us? And if you are somebody who's like, well, I love Taco Bell, like I eat there like at least twice a week, kind of a thing, right? And I can never get enough of my Baja Blast. So it's like, okay, cool. Well, you clearly love what we do here, so that gives them more of an incentive to at least see if this would be a good fit, right? So, but yeah, so I agree. It's like doing your homework, doing your research, but then also honing into the brands and that you really want to work with. And I always say this, I say that's the first list. And then the second list are the companies that you may not already use, but are curious about. Because I think curiosity is also important too. It's like, hey, I never used your stuff before, but I really like XYZ. I like maybe your brand, like the way that you present your brand or your mission, right? Or something along those lines. And I just want to build that relationship and just learn more about you, right? That's more of a curiosity stage that may lead into something, but that's a very different approach than, yes, I like what you're doing here and I want to work with you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you hit on this because it's the same for us as well, right? And like, because you have to obviously love it, but then coming back to the curiosity piece, that one has been very interesting. And I have talent that always asks like, well, how do I know like what I'm curious about? Because it can be very broad, right? Because it's like our minds work like a Google search engine. If you're not like clarifying, it's going to give you like all these results. And so like when I help to like go through this process with them, I encourage them to really think about like adjacent audiences and thinking about like, okay, what is your audience? Like, who is your audience? Like, who are the people that are in your audience right now? And then think about like, okay, what brands would actually benefit from this audience as well? Because then it becomes like a very synergistic thing. And then it can definitely be a win-win on both sides.
Yeah, but that's also hard to determine too, right? It's like, okay, well, even then, like, okay, what are those brands like, right? So again, fortunately, AI does help a lot with that type of research and going, hey, this is the kind of content I'm creating right now. This is my type of audience. What brands? But that still only gets you so far. So that it does help when you have somebody that's representing you that understands that understands how to make those type of assessments, and also to knowing all those nuances as well, because there's a lot out there, right? Because there's so many brands that not only would be a good, they might be maybe their product or service directly may or may not be a good fit for your audience, but maybe they have a nonprofit arm that is, or a charity that they support that is, or maybe there's a specific type of campaign that they're running right now that just happens to fit really well with what you're doing, right? Because so there's all those little intricacies that brands do, because especially the larger brands, they have so many things that they're working on all at the same time, right? So it helps when you have somebody that's on that side that understands those aspects of things and also knows to look out for those things too.
Oh, 100%. And, just taking that one step further too, it's like, I feel like the creators, you have it all in your power as well to create your own luck, right? And if you go to these big events, right, where a lot of your brands are going to be like Cannes, for example, right? So, all these brands are throwing all the parties. And if you are just there and then you're pitching the brand then that you're already going to be there, that also makes it a lot easier for them too, because now you can let them know, like, you don't have to pay for my travel. I'm already going to be there.
Yep, that's exactly right. You're on your own dime. They're like, cool, all right, I'll see you there.
Exactly, exactly.
uh well, I we could definitely start wrapping things up here. I did want to ask you a couple of fun questions. So the first question I have for you is, what was the last film or concert that you went to?
My gosh, that's a bigger question. Oh gosh, I haven't been to a movie theater in years. Is that awful to say?
No, that's why I said film or concert. So I know, as an introvert too, I think that's like one of the worst questions to ask.
No, no, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, I love the cinema. It's just been so long. It definitely was probably before the pandemic. Concert though, was Blackpink maybe 3 years
Nice.
ago. Yeah, 3 years ago in
That's
LA when
cool.
they like got back together. But that was
That
still
show
a
must have
whole
been
thing.
show must have been insane though. Like Blackpink, you're like, oh,
Oh,
that's super
it was
cool.
definitely a bucket list for sure.
Do you have a guilty pleasure? And that could mean anything. That could be a television show, could be a food.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so such a good question too. Okay, my guilty pleasure is this is gonna sound so bad, but I actually love Taco Bell.
Oh, you do.
I try so
So
hard
funny.
not to like really like dive into like fast food and things like that, but when it's
Mm.
late, it's like the only thing that's open and it's just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So if my dietitian is listening to this, she's gonna kill me.
Hey, that's why it's a guilty pleasure, right? You
Exactly.
have can indulge. All right, last question for you. If you're only able to give one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice be?
Oh, I love this question. I was actually just journaling about this the other day because I've been doing like a lot of inner child work, right? And just like a lot of healing from that because growing up, right, like you just don't know. So the one piece of advice I would give would be to just start and do it anyway. And not to care too much about what other people think. Yeah. I'm still working on that, but
No, I I need to hear that more often, and I'm that kind of person that likes to be like, oh, I'm going to try it, and these new things out and so forth. But you know, I started a record label with no experience in the music industry at all, and I just wanted to do it. So I very much understand and appreciate that statement because I agree. Like I would not be where I am today if I didn't try, and it's one of those things where if I look back now of how long it took and all the challenges and the struggles that went along with it, I think it would be way too overwhelmed and probably wouldn't even start to begin with. So there's something to be said about the naivety, being a little bit naive going into things like that. But I think but like you said, it's never going to be perfect. You just have to start. And if you have to try. You have to try and see if this is what you love. I mean, if you didn't, I mean, you probably, be, still, having those birthday parties at, in the office right now, right? So, if you didn't take a chance and look what you're doing now, right? You're having, like, I could tell you're so passionate about what you're doing and having so much fun doing it. So, but that was all on taking a risk and leaving something that was stable to do something that you truly love and were passionate about.
oh, 100%. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. We'll make sure we have all the links in the show notes for people to check out. But again, thank you so much for doing this. Really do appreciate it.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a wonderful conversation. You're a fantastic host. And
Oh,
again, I
thank you.
really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.